Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Make Your Mark podcast. Now, I knew I had to have our guest on today because she talks about PR and we know how huge PR is. However, she does actually talk about some of the myths, some of the things that we've all been told about PR that aren't necessarily true. And so she's going to be explaining what all of these things are, plus so much more. Oh my goodness, please welcome Laura to the stage. Oh my goodness, Laura, thank you for being here.
Thank you for the invitation.
Absolutely. Now, PR is so huge, right? It's massive. And honestly, in the last year, I've learned so many things about PR myself that I didn't really have any clue about, right? Because I was one of those people that thought you had to be a celebrity before you even do PR, right? Because that's what you're kind of told and what you see.
Yeah.
But before we get into that nitty-gritty, Laura, I would love for you to explain to our listeners, right, our viewers, a little bit about your background because we all know PR business doesn't just happen like that in a click of a finger. There must have been a journey.
Of course, isn't there always a business journey? So I've actually always worked in PR. So public relations is what I studied at university. So I've technically been learning about PR ever since I was 18 years old. So that is over 20 years ago, sadly. But do you know what? It's been a huge journey, and the industry has evolved so much. If you think back to 20 odd years ago, social media didn't exist.
Mm.
So brands very much had to rely on advertising, marketing, and traditional PR. And when I say traditional PR, I'm talking print, TV, and radio.
Right.
Now, 20 years on, yes, the internet has exploded, but now digital content, podcasts, YouTube, there are so many more platforms that allow all kinds of business owners to speak directly to their ideal clients, their customers, the people they want to attract into their world. So some people might say it's easier to become more niche famous because there are now more platforms, but it can also be overwhelming AF. And we know what happens when we're overwhelmed is we freak out, we get stuck, and we don't move forward because we don't know how to. So for me, PR is all about how do you get in front of your ideal clients in the most aligned way possible. Because if I said to you today, Kate, I'm going to get you in the Daily Mail, you would probably be like, oh, no, I don't think I want to be in the Daily Mail. However, it could be, all right, how about Stylist magazine? And you could be like, I read Stylist, I love their content, I trust them. Absolutely, let's go for it. So a lot of the times when people think of the media, they think of the Daily Mail, the Sun, the Daily Express, or TV shows. And we know that the news is often fear based, it evokes scarcity, it wants to keep us under control.
Mhm.
That is not what I
That,
am here for. I am here for you are going to stand up and you are going to share your message in a way that feels so aligned that it lands with the right people. So let's find the media outlets that are going to champion you and celebrate you. And I've had to learn this along the way, that I didn't learn this at university.
ah,
This is very much kind of boots on the ground. How do I want to work? How do I want to show up and represent my clients? Because a lot of the
okay.
times clients come to me for reassurance, for recognition, for that real kind of confidence and clarity of, yeah, do you know what? I am a big deal. And yeah, I do want to be famous in my niche. Let's put a plan together. So, I've had to kind of roll with the punches and learn how I want to show up and teach about public relations. And it's very much been a journey, but communication, connection, relationship building has always been at the heart of everything I do. And that is at the heart of public relations.
Oh my goodness. I love all of that. But you know what? It's now giving me so much more questions to ask you. So again,
Sorry.
like I I want to take a couple of steps back. Now, you said you kind of went into PR, when you was 18 years old. So you knew from a very young age what it was that you wanted to do, right? And you just followed the steps from there. But you've also mentioned that PR has changed because technology, the world, everything has changed, right? And so what you got taught when you was 18 years old is completely different to the way world and PR is working now. And so how did you keep up with the rolling, changing times to make sure that your PR agency keeps on top of everything and continues to get your clients results?
Of course, a really great question. And it's often a case of like do or die. You either jump in or you get left behind. So
Mm,
it was more a case of actually pay attention to what's going on around you. What are other industries doing and what are they doing really well? So, social media gives you direct contact with your fans, your followers, your potential clients, your current clients. And it's very kind of communicative, it's very conversational. And
right.
that is still at the heart of PR. So for me, it's very much like marketing and social media. I mean, it all kind of falls under the comms umbrella, okay?
Yeah.
So for me, they should all work together collaboratively. It shouldn't be social media versus PR or PR versus advertising. They should all work together. But obviously, as
Okay.
small business owners, we can probably only invest so much time, effort, and money into behaving like a big brand. So for me, it's like, what can you take from that like big brand energy, but without needing a big brand budget? So for me, if it's being interviewed on podcasts, for me, that's still PR. You're still showing up, you're still sharing your message. If you are doing a TikTok live, that's still PR because you're still showing up and sharing your message. So for me, PR is you talking to your ideal clients. It's just the platforms that you use are different. And to be fair, I've had to adapt and adopt those different platforms myself because if I only focused on print, print publications are becoming extinct. Everything's digital first, and social media drives so much editorial content. It drives the news narrative, so you can't ignore it. So for me, it was a case of, okay, this isn't what I learned, but we're just gonna suck it up and make it work.
Oh, I love this. Oh my goodness. Okay. Again, so many more questions. So we're going to start step by step here, right? Now, when I first got into podcasting myself, right, with a podcast agency, I never really realized that being on podcast is part of PR too, right? Until I found out on my PR journey that, oh my goodness, okay, this is a thing. It's a PR route to go down for sure. So because you mentioned there's so many different avenues, right? Like you got the TV, you've got the magazines, you've got the podcast, you've got all these different various ways, social media. So when you're first starting out, how do you know where to start? And how do you progress from there?
Of course, it's a minefield, okay?
Mm.
And I mean, obviously, I'm massively biased. I will always say to business owners, invest in some level of understanding and strategy. So you don't have to go out and hire an agency immediately because it's not what you need, but kind of understand where you fit within the media landscape, what platforms light you up. Like, I love having a conversation on a podcast more so than I enjoy typing out an interview. It's just dry, it's boring. And when you're on a podcast, people can maybe see you and hear you, and you just connect on that deeper level faster. So if you're first starting out, there's so much free content online. You can absolutely follow me on Instagram. That's where I'm dropping the tea. It's where I'm keeping it real. But,
Yeah.
even if you invest like an hour, half a day, just really understand actually what is my message? What are my news hooks? Which outlets do I need to start tapping into first? Because so many people want the end result, but aren't thinking about the steps they need to take to get there.
Okay.
So for me, I'm like, let's pull it back. Let's just pull it back and make it super simple. Because again, if you overcommit, you're going to drop the ball, and then you'll be like, oh no, I've dropped the ball. I'll move on to something else. So for me, it's about make it simple, make it light you the fuck up so that you commit to doing it regularly, and then just really build that muscle of this is where I'm showing up, this is the message I share, and these are the results I'm getting as a consequence.
Oh, amazing. Amazing. Now, one of the things that really kind of popped out for me, what you just said there, is it sounds like everyone has a different path, right? Everyone has a different way of getting started and progressing. Or am I wrong there? Is there a one size fits all when it comes to PR?
No, I mean,
Mm.
I don't think so anyway. It's very much down to the individual because, a lot of clients I speak to come to me and they say, oh, I don't want to share my personal story, or my personal story isn't part of my business journey, but I can only get featured if I share my story. And I'm like, absolute BS. No, you've got expertise and knowledge that
Yeah.
people will pay you for. It's now about sharing that to more people who can then pay you more. So it's very much a case of actually how do you want to show up, where and who for, and then we kind of reverse engineer the types of media outlets or platforms that are gonna position you that way.
Ah, okay. Yeah, there's massive strategy around this and where placement is, which brings me to the next thing I wanted to ask you. In fact, Laura, I have been looking at your social media. I've done some research,
Good
right, as
girl.
to what you're posting, right, what you're talking about. And one of the things that really stuck out to me is you said, right, and I don't know if I've got this word by word from how you said it, but the way you show up, right, how you show up and where you show up, right, is the way you're perceived by your audience, which was really interesting to me, right?
Mhm.
Because what I find is people are saying yes, 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 yes to everything because they just want visibility, right?
Sure.
But could you explain a little bit as to how that is a good thing, but how that could hurt you if you're not showing up in the right places?
Of course, 100%. And, you know, let's be honest, none
Mm.
of us are here to piss about in business. We want results, we want success, we want the growth. And I'm very much like, if you're going to do it properly, go all in. But when you're first starting out, as you said, every opportunity is an opportunity to be visible. But
Mm-hmm.
are you being visible in the right places? So if your ideal clients are reading Forbes,
Yeah.
yes, aim to get featured in Forbes. But the readers of Forbes, what else are they reading? What else are they listening to? And then start building like a map of where else you can be seen. If, for example, say you're a menopause coach and your approach to talk to Banking Monthly as a really bad example, somebody might be reading your article and thinking, oh, yeah, this is nice, but it's not moving them enough to work with you because menopause isn't something that they're having to deal with on a daily basis. It's the wrong audience, wrong message, wrong
Right.
audience. So for me, it's like, no, if you're going to put effort into showing up, let's be strategic about where that is. But the same goes for even events that you're attending. You know,
Mm.
and this might just be me because I'm very protective of like my brand. It's almost who else is in the room, because
Yeah.
if they are very new in business and I'm all of a sudden seen in pictures with people who are very new in business, then automatically people will assume that I'm also very new in business.
Right.
It's that
Yes.
kind of, not guilty by association, but it's almost the company you keep also has an impact on how you're perceived. Now, I'm not saying fake it till you make it. I'm not saying hang out in the rooms with all the like multi 7 and 8 figure business owners to be seen, but it's almost, you know, really think about what's going to put you in front of your audience in the fastest, most effective way. And there will be learning along the way, especially with podcasts,
Yeah.
it's not as if people publish their listener figures, they might not know their audience demographics. That's cool. Because I'm very much like, we'll learn along the way if it was the right audience, the right message, the right platform.
Absolutely. Okay, I love that. I love that. So it's also a way of, I guess, protecting your own energy, especially if you are a business owner as well. And you can't be everywhere all the time. You're going to burn out, right?
Mm,
So
yeah,
the best way to kind of preserve your energy, but also be effective in a way that's going to get you results. That's what I'm hearing.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah. Oh, I
absolutely.
love it.
I'm always like, protect you first.
Mhm.
Make sure,
Absolutely.
yeah, show up in the right places. And if you don't know where that is, ask for guidance and support.
Yeah. Oh, I love this. Okay, so we're talking about, or we spoke about people that have small businesses, right? Preserving their energy and all of that kind of stuff. And I know there's probably people here listening to this and they'll be like, well, if you've got a small business, you're probably not ready for PR. So how do you know if and when you're ready for PR? And should it be something that we wait until our business gets to a certain scale before we think about PR?
Um, so right, you're the only time I would say you're too early for PR is
Mhm.
if you don't have a website, because
Okay.
journalists are always going to include a backlink to your website. They're never going to do a
Mm,
backlink to social media or to a podcast. They want to direct people to your website. Your website's like your digital shop front.
right. Yeah.
So even if it's a one page, at least when people land on your website, they know it's you. So you want to have a
Interesting.
yeah. So you want to have a website or a landing page. You want
Okay.
to have had some clients who have basically worked with you. So you've got proof of concept. You know that what you're promising is being delivered. And then make sure that your message is understandable to people outside of your industry. Because again, if you're showing up in the press, people are going to visit your website. They're going to find you on social media as well. We do all the stalking. We want to make sure that how you're showing up on a podcast or how you're showing up on TV is what they're finding on your website and finding on social. So it's just all about that alignment so that there isn't a disconnect and then people start to kind of question your congruency. It's almost like, well, what you've said on TV feels off compared to what I'm seeing on social,
Okay.
which I
All
guess is
right.
where the whole be authentically you
Right.
comes into play. Because and I still do this. I if I write proposals for clients, I tend to go slightly corporate because
Hmm.
a proposal is very very grown up, very professional, and then I lose parts of me and I have to remind myself, no, because if you're showing up this way on a podcast and that way in a proposal, there's a massive disconnect.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, it's very much
You
kind
got
of,
to stay consistent with who you are,
yeah, yeah.
right? All shapes and forms. Okay, I like this. Now, I think when it comes to PR, people feel like, oh my goodness, yes, I'm gonna go on TV. I'm gonna be everywhere on TV, right? Like, to be fair, like to be honest, that's where my mind went when I started looking into PR, right? And
Well,
then I was like, I haven't been on a single TV show. What is this all about? So so honestly, how easy is it to actually get on TV? And what are the kind of myths behind PR when people kind of are on that kind of assumption that it's all about getting on the big magazines, the big TV shows, you're going to be interviewed by Oprah, right? Because people do think that.
yeah, they do. And I never say never, dreams are possible, but let's build towards that. Let's aim high with Oprah, but what can we do in the meantime so that Oprah then reaches out to you and says, "Oh my God, you're making such an impact. I need to have you on." So for me, it's very much like I want everyone I'm working with to start receiving inbound opportunities.
Ooh, okay, I like that.
But it takes time. You have to put in the work. You have to show up on the smaller podcasts and maybe in the industry publications first to get your name out there. And then as your credibility rises, you become more niche famous. The more niche famous you become, the more people are like, that's who I need to get onto the sofa. That's who I need to bring onto the podcast.
Oh
So
my goodness.
it's,
It's a process.
absolutely. Yeah, totally. So to answer your question, is it difficult to get on TV? The only way it's difficult to get on TV is there aren't many options. So,
Okay.
there are only so many like news programs or lifestyle programs on the telly. So there's
Right.
there's not like it's not abundant. It's not like with podcasts where it seems that everyone's now launching one for their own
Right.
brand visibility. So because the opportunities are smaller, it can feel harder. But that just means that you then need to pitch yourself in a very specific way. And
Okay.
a tip that I picked up, so a couple of weeks ago, I hosted a PR and private dining event called Spotlight Soiree.
Right,
And
yes. That.
yes, and I had a TV producer from Sky News join us. And he said his favourite guests are those that are entrepreneurial or from small businesses because they speak more openly. They're not perfectly polished, they haven't been prepped by their PR agency. They can show up and actually speak more of the truth rather than from a script.
Interesting.
So he actually likes it when people maybe seem like they're going a bit rogue because they're actually being authentic to who they are. And he said, and if it's, say for example, we're talking about budget cuts, he said, I don't want a boring guest who's going to talk about the same boring crap that every other person's going to. I want something different. I want a sound bite because we're then going to use that on social media. That's going to attract more followers. People are then going to watch the replay, find us on YouTube. So even for a TV program, they're also thinking about how's this coming across on social? How else can we repurpose this to get our content in front of the masses?
Oh, I love that. Do you know what? And that kind of fits with what I've been saying as well, because I do say to people, like, getting on podcasts, or even when you have your own podcast, like, don't be polished. Like, don't edit all the ums and the ahs, right? That's too much work, right?
Yeah,
Like, if a cat strolls past on your table while you're talking, it's fine, right? If the doorbell goes because you got a postman there with a delivery, it's okay, right? That people are drawn into more of that stuff because people don't want to see people polished. We're bored of that now,
yeah, of
you know?
course. Yeah, yeah, totally.
Uh, so I love that. I love that. Now, I did see something else that you posted on socials as well, right? And you
Okay.
mentioned something about the four P's,
Hmm.
right? The four P's. Would you be able to go through with us what those four P's are and explain a little bit about what they mean, right? And why it's really important to know all of this.
Of course. So I've actually been working to this kind of niche famous framework since
Hmm.
like the dawn of time. I just hadn't ever realized, oh, actually that's my process. So
Oh,
I've been working with done for you clients on this basis like forever. And it was only recently that I thought, do you know what? Let's make this available to everyone because
okay.
actually publicity isn't the end goal. For all of us as business owners, we want to earn more money, we want to make more profit.
Mm.
So, yes, publicity plays into that. But before we can get to publicity, we need to understand our position in the market and how people perceive us and how we perceive ourselves.
Okay. All right.
So, these four pillars are perception, positioning,
Mm.
publicity, and profit.
Okay.
So,
Or profit. That one.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, get me to the profit. And it was interesting because actually I've just turned this into like an instant access course, and I've kind of said right at the start on the video, I started with module 1 on perception, and this is probably going to trigger you because you have to be truthful of how do you perceive yourself? How do you believe others perceive you? Do not freak out and run away and don't move through the other pillars because each pillar builds on the next one. So
Okay.
we want a snapshot. And I've done this to myself recently. I've been in a massive transition phase and I did this perception audit myself. And
Okay.
it is ugly. As a retired perfectionist, it was like, oh, okay, maybe I'm not as amazing as I thought I was. But it just gives you a snapshot of where am I? And then when you move through to positioning, that's when you can start making different moves. You can start showing up in different spaces. You can start being interviewed or having conversations on the podcasts that are actually going to be listened to by your ideal clients. You can maybe do an Instagram live with somebody who has a membership whose audience is full of your ideal clients. So once you know where you are, then you can start making bolder moves to really solidify your position. Because, if I
Okay.
use public relations as an example, I'm not the only PR specialist in the world. There are hundreds of us. And then for those hundreds of us, there are thousands of agencies.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
me being a PR specialist, who cares? You know, but the more I show up, the more I share my message and my energy, it's going to attract the right people in.
Absolutely. Oh, I love that. Okay. So it's really getting vulnerable with yourself and being comfortable with being vulnerable,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And it's so funny that you mentioned that you have done this audit on yourself because I think I've been doing that myself as well because my messaging has changed on social media completely.
Mhm.
And it's funny because it's one of those things where when you are aware and you do work on it, things just tend to click and you're like, where was this years ago? Right? Right. And so all of a sudden things get easier, but it is about making sure that you become comfortable with being vulnerable in front of everybody, and it changes everything.
Oh, 100%. And to be honest, I've always I've always kind of got the ick when people have said to me about becoming famous, because it's like, you don't want to become famous. Okay. Everybody wants to become famous, but they want to be well known in their niche. So they want to
Yeah.
become niche famous. And all of a sudden
Mm,
I was like, oh, okay, just putting the word niche in front of famous has completely changed like my understanding, and I'm no longer resisting using the word fame because I'm using it in a way that resonates with me. So
okay.
it took a coach to almost be like, they want niche fame. And I was like, no, but I don't know if they do. They want to be the go-to expert. They want to be an industry authority. And she was like, Laura, she wants to be niche famous. Yeah, you're absolutely right. So it was almost, sometimes it takes somebody else to just unlock the door for you and be like, here we go, walk on through. That's all it
Mm-hmm.
takes, because we're
Absolutely.
so close to what we're doing.
Yeah. And I guess also what makes a difference is you've got to be open, right, to having a different perspective presented to you as well. Right? Because I remember this
Yeah.
class where they're like, no, 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 I can't get booked on podcast because this is where I really niche down and I can only get on this. And I'm like, no, no, no. We've got to be a bit broader as to how you help people, who you help people. You can get on so many podcasts. And I remember speaking to this client for about 3 months telling her the same thing, and she's like, no, 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 it doesn't work that way. And all of a sudden it clicked,
Mm.
and she was like, oh my goodness, I could be on so many podcasts. And in a day she got booked on 3 podcasts. I'm like, there you go.
Who knew?
Right, so, you're right, so I hear what you're saying. So you got to be open to new ideas and perspectives as
Yeah,
well, right? This is
yeah,
huge.
yeah, totally. And also, if you're investing in an expert, listen to their expertise. They know what they're talking about.
I'm sure. Oh my goodness. I love that. I love that. Now, what is the next stage? So once you got your kind of perspective right on point and you know how to show up and you know how you're showing up by other people, what is the next step?
So the next step, once you've sorted out the perception of yourself and how others perceive you, and then your positioning in the market, that's when the PR piece comes in. That's where you really want to make bold moves and show up consistently. So what you don't want to do is respond to a journo request and get featured in July and then not get featured again until November. Because, people are like, oh, we've forgotten all about you. So you want to kind of consistently line up, whether it's a podcast conversation, whether it's a chat on YouTube, whatever channel you decide to show up on, you need to make sure that you're being consistent. Because what you then want to do is turn that publicity into profit, which then comes into your marketing and social media and leveraging your wins. And so
Okay.
many entrepreneurs will share their PR wins on social. They'll get praise, they'll get likes, they'll get engagement, and then wonder why it hasn't brought inquiries or sales into their business. And it's like, because
Ah.
you're showing it off as a trophy, you're not using it as a tool. So what we want
Ooh.
to do is create like a visibility engine so that it goes from publicity through to marketing, social media, even in your conversations on sales calls and DMs. And that is what's going to help you make more money and increase your profit. because you're then having
Oh
more
my God.
conversations with more people. They're coming to you already sold on working with you because they've heard your 5 podcasts and seen it on social. So it's more about that real kind of credibility piece of attracting people who are like, it's you and you only.
Wow. Okay. I love that. I want to talk more about profit side of things because this is something new that I haven't heard before and
Mhm.
probably a lot of others haven't heard too. But I want to take a couple of steps back because you said you got to be consistent with PR, right?
Mhm.
And you can't show up in 1 month and then months go past and then show up somewhere else. So to you, right, like as a PR expert, what does it look like to be consistently showing up? Like, should we be in a magazine every single month? Like, what does that look like?
So what I always do with clients is it's very much it's very strategic. It's very much like we're going to go all in, but we're not going to faff about. So
Right.
again, it's understanding who's your ideal client. So let's just say, for example, your ideal client is female 45 who runs her own business. Then it's a case of figuring out what's she listening to, what's she reading, what's she consuming. So,
Right.
and it's not a case of asking, it's not a case of saying to our audience, what do you read and listen to? Because people don't pay attention.
Okay. All right.
So it's more a case of, so many people say to me, I want to be on a diary of a CEO. And I'm like,
Mm.
okay,
Right.
say less. So let's actually have a look at the demographic of the listeners of Diary of a CEO. So if
Mhm.
they are women that are 45 and run their own business, brilliant. Where else can they be doing? What else are they listening to? What else are they reading? What else are they watching? It could be that they do have This Morning on in the background while they're working at home. It could be that they listen to Radio
Mhm.
4 Women's Hour. It could be that they're listening to a really trashy podcast because that's what they love to listen to. So it's about creating this kind of map of all the spaces your ideal clients are taking up and then inserting yourself in there. So it's very much a case of, I mean, obviously, I've been doing this for so long that I just kind of instinctively know where people need to be. It's like, yeah, we need to be in Stylist, and then also actually you need to be in Red Magazine, and then you need to be on this podcast and this podcast. So it's a lot more fluid, and sometimes it can be
Mm.
fun. And I kind of created this like layer cake analogy because everybody loves a cake, right? So
Yes.
if you can picture like a Victoria sponge, you've got the 2 layers of sponge, and then you've got the jam and cream in the middle.
Hmm.
So the sponge on the top is your expertise. So if I use me as an example, my top layer is PR. My
Yes.
bottom layer is then all the other topics that PR relates to. So I could talk about PR and SEO. I can talk about PR and social. I can talk about reputation management, crisis management. Now the jam and the cream in the middle is me.
Okay.
That's the tasty bit. That's bringing the flavor. So that's
Mm.
where I start revealing more of me. So it could be talking about owning French bulldogs. It could be being child free by choice. It could be an opinion that I have on something that's going on. Now, the jam and the cream in the middle is the smallest part of the cake because
Mm.
you want to show your ideal clients your personality without moving away from your expertise.
Okay. All right.
So
Oh,
again,
interesting.
when I'm
Good.
working with clients, it's like, let's take this cake analogy into consideration, and then we can
Right.
choose the kind of media outlets based on what of you you're showing.
Absolutely. Oh, I love that. And now I'm like craving for Victoria
Yes,
sponge
I say.
cake. All right, and I want to really quickly go on to like profit making, right? Because I think people instinctively think, oh my goodness, I'm going to be in all these magazines, and I'm going to be on TV, and I'm going to be showing up. The money is just automatically going to be coming into my bank, right? Because it works for celebrities. Why wouldn't it work for us,
Yeah,
right?
I know, I know. We've been fed a lie. We have absolutely
Yeah.
been fed a lie. Um,
Hmm.
I mean, there's more to it. Sadly for us, it's more work. However,
Yeah.
this is something I'm only just starting to talk about because historically PRs have never wanted to attribute a financial ROI because PR isn't a sales tool, it's a brand awareness tool, it's a visibility tool. But I'm a bit like, nah, do you know, I'm tired of that, because actually, if I'm asking people to make an investment, they need to see what is happening. Yeah, okay, I've been featured in 5 places, great. That's not the end result. That's almost like the start of this new journey of me being visible and becoming niche famous and getting in front of the right people. What's the result of that? So again, the instant access course I've just created talks about how we're going to leverage and how we're going to track conversions. So this does mean we're looking at data, we're looking at insights, we're looking at analytics. It's boring AF as a creative, but numbers don't lie. So it could be that you've been on this morning, and it could be that they have 20,000 viewers. What we want to do is make sure that your slot on this morning drives visitors to your website and gets them to sign up to your freebie, or they start following you on social media. So you need to know your numbers before you went on this morning, so that then you can track what happened afterwards.
Right. Okay, I like that.
Then we almost want to see, now every time we post, are we getting more engagement? On stories, are our new followers interacting with us? So then we can update the conversion tracker, so that when they then say, can we jump on a call, you know that that person has come from this morning.
Right, okay.
And it's like, okay, if that worked, let's double down, let's do more of it.
Right. Oh my goodness, there's so much involved in this, Laura. There's like tons of it. This is why people need to hire you, so you can keep them accountable, keep them on track on everything, right? Because it just sprouts out in different branches, right? It's awesome, but it is something that I guess it's difficult for one person to get their head around, especially if you're not an expert around it. And we need someone like you to actually show us the ropes, right? And explain all the different strategies. I love this. Now, Laura, at this point, people are thinking, how the hell do I get in contact with Laura? I need this. I need to understand more of PR. So where can they go to connect with you and learn more?
So the best place to connect with me is on Instagram. My handle is @PR-with-Perkes. Now, just to make life a little bit more interesting, Perkes has an extra E. So it's more like Perkes. So, you know, don't just type in Perkes like you're shopping Perks. There's an extra E after the K. So it's @PR-with-Perkes, PERKES.
I love it. And guys, don't forget, all the information, all the contact details, everything will be in the show notes. So make sure you scroll down and check out the show notes there and connect with Laura. She's already given so many golden nuggets in such a short amount of time. Imagine how much more she can share with you and explain to you what PR is all about. Laura, thank you so much for coming onto the show.
Thank you so much. I know we could have spoken about this for many, many hours, but let's not.
Sure. Yes, absolutely. I know that I could speak to you all day about this for, or even days. But I appreciate your time. And thank you so much for coming on. Like I said, guys, go ahead and connect with Laura. She is amazing. She is approachable. She's got so much knowledge. And Laura, thank you for coming and sharing so openly with all of us.
No, you are absolutely welcome. And actually, what I should do is say that you and I are going to be working together for the Visibility and Velocity Summit, which is on the 16th of September. It's completely free to attend. Your girl Kay is going to be here talking all about podcasts. I'm going to be there with the journalist talking about press, anything to do with visibility. We're going to have you covered for the Visibility and Velocity Summit.
There you go. And we'll put those details in the show notes as well. Right, so go and check that out. Thanks a lot, Laura. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to Make Your Mark podcast at www.makeyourmarkpodcast.com. Make sure you hit that subscribe button so you get this and every other episode that comes out. We have lots of great stuff coming, so make sure you hit subscribe so you don't miss it. And thank you in advance for all the reviews and comments. I appreciate it so much, and I look forward to serving you in next week's episode.